Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
In August of 2025, Polish researchers tested something nobody had thought to check. What happens to doctors' skills after they rely on AI assistance? Now, in this case, the AI worked perfectly, catching problems during colonoscopies, flagging abnormalities faster than the human eyes could catch. But when researchers pulled the AI away, the doctor's ability to detect problems dropped dramatically. They become less skilled at spotting problems on their own. Now, in this case, the hospital deployed the AI to help, but it caused a problem. We are all making decisions like this right now. A solution fixes the immediate problem, but creates a second-order consequence, an unintended consequence that's harder to see and often more damaging than what we started with. Research from Gartner shows that poor operational decisions cost companies upwards of 3% of their annual profits. So a company with $5 billion in revenue loses $150 million every year because managers solved the first-order problem and created second-order disasters. You see this pattern everywhere. A retail chain closes underperforming stores to cut costs and ends up losing even more money when loyal customers abandon the brand entirely. A daycare introduces a late pickup fee to discourage tardiness, and late pickups skyrocket because parents now feel they're paying for the privilege. The skill that separates wise decision makers from everybody else isn't speed. It's the ability to ask one simple question repeatedly. And then what? First order thinking asks, what happens if I do this? Second order thinking asks, and then what? And then what after that? Many people stop at the first question. They see the immediate consequences, make a decision, and act. But every action creates a cascade of effects, and the second and third order consequences are often the opposite of what we intended. Think about social media platforms. First order, they connect people across distances. Second order thinking, they fragment attention spans and fuel polarization. The difference isn't about being cautious, it's about being thorough. In a world where business decisions come faster and with higher stakes than ever before, the ability to trace consequences forward through multiple levels is not optional anymore. Let me show you how. So, before we get into the specific strategies, here's what you need to understand. Second order thinking isn't about predicting the future with certainty. It's about systematically considering possibilities that most people ignore. The reason most people fail at this isn't a lack of intelligence, it's that our brains evolved to focus on immediate threats and rewards. Do not want to get eaten by that saber-toothed tiger. First order thinking kept our ancestors alive, but in complex modern systems, businesses, markets, organizations, first order thinking gets you killed. And the good news is, this is a learnable skill. You don't need special training or an advanced degree. You need two things: a framework for mapping consequences and a method for forcing yourself to actually use it. Two strategies will stop your solutions from creating bigger problems. So, first off, mapping people how will actually respond. Trace your decisions through stakeholders. Understand what they're actually incentivized and predict how the systems adapt. And then run and then what drill. Force yourself to see 3 moves ahead before you act, using a simple 3-round question method. Let's break down each of these 2 strategies in more detail. So again, strategy 1. Map how people will actually respond. Here's the fundamental insight that separates good decision makers from everybody else. People respond to what you reward, not what you intend. When you make a decision, you're not choosing an action. You're sending signals into a complex system of human beings who will interpret those signals, adapt their behavior, and create consequences we never imagined. Your job is to trace those adaptations before they happen. The strategy has three components that work together. First, identify all of your stakeholders. When considering a decision, list everyone it will affect directly and indirectly. Don't just think about your immediate team. Think about your customers, both current and potential, competitors. How are they going to respond? Your suppliers and partners, your employees at all different levels within your organization, your investors, your board of directors, regulatory bodies, industry watchdogs, adjacent markets, ecosystems. Most executives stop after listing 2 or 3 obvious groups. The consequences you miss come from stakeholders you forgot to consider. And here's what research shows. Wharton professor Philip Tetlock spent 2 decades studying how well experts predict future events. And what were his landmark findings? Even highly credentialed experts' predictions were only slightly better than random choice, barely better than a dart-throwing chimp. But the real insight came when Tetlock discovered that certain people can forecast with exceptional accuracy. These super forecasters, as he calls them, share one key trait. They relentlessly ask, and then what? Before making any predictions. They just don't see the immediate effect. They trace the decision through the entire system. The people making million-dollar decisions are operating blind beyond that first consequence. Remember, they're not any better than just throwing a dart at a dartboard. Our job is to see what they're missing. So, second step is understand what you're actually rewarding. You've now got all the people that you're going to be influencing. Understand what you're actually rewarding. This is where most decisions go off the rails. You think you're incentivizing one behavior, but you're actually rewarding something completely different. Here's the test. For each stakeholder we listed, ask yourself, what does this decision make easier, more profitable, or less risky for them? Here's a quick example. Remember that daycare introduced the late pickup fee to discourage tardiness? They thought they were incentivizing on-time pickup. But what they were actually rewarded was guilt-free lateness. Parents who felt terrible about being late now had a clear price for that guilt. The fee didn't discourage behavior, it legitimized it, and late pickups skyrocketed. The daycare asked the wrong question. They asked, what punishment will discourage lateness? Instead, they should have asked, what does a $5 fee actually incentivize? Another example, you add a performance metric to improve efficiency. First order thinking says people will work more efficiently. But what is actually rewarding? Optimizing for the metric, often at the expense of things you didn't measure, but actually probably matter more. Sales quotas reward closing deals, not necessarily solving customers' problems. Employee of the Month awards reward visibility, not necessarily the best work. Quarterly earnings target rewarding short-term thinking, not building long-term value. When you rush a hiring decision to fill a role quickly, you're rewarding speed over quality. Second order effect. Your team learns that urgency matters more than fit, and future hiring suffers. The pattern. People don't follow the spirit of your policy, they follow the incentives. And they're incredibly creative at finding ways to game the systems when the incentives misalign with the goals. So, let's talk about the third part of this process, right? So we've talked about incentives, we talked about stakeholders. Third one, trace each response forward. Now that you know who's affected and what you've incentivizing, trace how they will respond and then how the system responds to their response. This is where the stakeholder analysis and incentives analysis combined into a real predictive power. For example, when ride-sharing apps added surge pricing to solve driver shortages, here's how it played out. First order, more drivers showed up when prices surged. Problem solved, right? Second order stakeholder response, customers started waiting out surge periods, meaning fewer overall rides. The drivers started gaming the system by turning off their apps to create artificial shortages that triggered surges. Competitors without surge pricing captured price-sensitive customers. Media coverage made the surge pricing synonymous with price gouging and damaging their brand trust. So let's go on to the third order, systematic effect. The solution trained customers to use the service less frequently. It taught drivers to manipulate the platform rather than respond to genuine demand. It created a PR vulnerability that regulators could exploit. The very mechanism designed to solve shortage created new shortages through gaming behavior. So the original problem, driver shortages during peak times, was real. The first order solution, higher prices, attracted more drivers, was economically sound. Somebody made the decision, but nobody mapped how customers and drivers would actually respond to the incentives created by surge pricing. The key insight here, complex systems don't just accept your decisions, they adapt to them. And those adaptations often work directly against your original intent. Let's try it now. Pause this right now. Pause this podcast. If you're on the YouTube channel, pause this video. Pause this for 30 seconds. Think of one decision your company made in the last year. Who were the stakeholders? How did they actually respond? What was it what you expected? Who were the stakeholders? How did they actually respond? And was it what you expected? Go ahead, pause it. I'll be right here. If your response surprised you, you just found a second order effect you missed. So let's keep going. Strategy number 2 is run the and then what drill. Because you got to find these second order effects. The objective is to find them. Find them is to run the and then what drill. So now you have a framework for thinking about consequences. Now you've got to have something that allows you to change it, that allows you to actually take action. This is your daily practice method. Before any significant decisions, literally ask yourself, and then what? Ask yourself, and then what? 3 times. Out loud, make it awkward, make it unavoidable. Here's why this works. Your brain will naturally stop at the first answer. We talked about this many times in the channel about the power of questions. So if you ask yourself, your brain cannot stop answering it. So ask itself 3 times. The question forces you to keep going. It's a cognitive override, a way to fight your brain's preference for first order thinking. The 3 rounds. Round 1, immediate consequences. State the obvious first order effect. This should come easily. We'll discount our product by 20%, and then what? We'll attract more customers and gain more market share. Go to round 2. Ask it again. Now apply the strategy 1. How will stakeholders respond? What are we actually incentivizing? And then what? Competitors will match our discount to protect their market share, and customers will start expecting permanently lower prices. And we train them that our regular prices are inflated. Early adopters who paid full price feel cheated. In round 3, the systematic effect. Trace the second order responses forward. What happens when multiple stakeholders adapt simultaneously? And then what? Well, we're now in a price war. Our margins eroded over the entire product line. We can no longer fund innovation or customer service improvements. Competitors with deeper pockets can outlast us. We've commoditized our product and destroyed the brand value that justified our original pricing. And we are stuck in a race to the bottom. The pattern you're looking for here are the third order effects consistent with your goals, or do they undermine them? Most people never get past the first round one. By forcing yourself to get to round 3, you'll see patterns everybody else misses. So try it now. Think of a decision you're facing right now. Any decision. Say it out loud what happens first. Now say out loud, and then what? Answer it. Now say it again. And then what? Go ahead. I'm going to pause right here. Go through whatever decision you're making right now. Ask the and then what 3 times. Now, did round 3 surprise you? If yes, you found your blind spot. And just by thinking about it, you can come up with a better strategy, a better decision to avoid it completely. Now, let me give you a real world example. Let me walk you through a decision I faced as the CTO at HP. We were under pressure to cut R&D spending by 15% to hit quarterly earning targets. So round 1, immediate consequence. What hit? If we did the 15% cut, we would hit our quarterly numbers, Wall Street would be happy, stock price would stay stable, and the board would be happy. Great! Round 2. This is the response and adaptation. And then what? Well, our best researchers, the ones working on breakthrough projects for 3 to 5 years out in the horizon, see the writing on the wall. And they start looking to leave. They start looking at competitors who are not cutting R&D. Meanwhile, the teams that survive shift their focus to incremental improvements with shorter payback periods because that's what will not get cut next quarter. And then you go to round 3, the systematic effects. And then what? 18 months later, our innovation pipeline is empty. We're selling the same products with minor tweaks while competitors who maintained their R&D investment launch breakthrough products. We lose market leadership, and now we need to spend 3x what we saved just to catch up. But our best people are already gone, so we can't even spend the 3x to catch up. In our case, we fought the cut. We protected long-term R&D. Some of those projects became billion-dollar product lines, but I watched other companies make that first-order decision and destroy their innovation capability. That conversation took maybe 5 minutes between myself, the CEO, and the board, but it saved HP from years of playing catch-up. So, take a decision you're facing this week, any decision with financial or operational implications. Write down the decision at the top of the page. Be very specific. List 3 immediate consequences. These should come easily to you. Take each consequence and ask, and then what? And ask it twice. You want to get to the second order thinking, and you want to get to the third order thinking. Write down both of those. Create yourself a list. Find which effect you had not considered. That's your blind spot. Do this for one decision this week, and you'll start seeing consequences others don't. And make it a habit. And it becomes automatic, like a chess player who sees 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. So right now in your company, there are people who seem to always be that one step ahead. They don't work longer hours. They're not more talented than you, but somehow they avoid the disasters others walk into. They see opportunities others miss. They're able to almost like look around corners, and they get promoted while others are fixing problems. But here's their secret. While everyone else celebrates the first order win, they're already managing the second order consequences. While you're implementing the solution, they've already anticipated what breaks next. That gap between first order thinking and second order thinking is the difference between running in place and actually advancing. So your challenge for the next 30 days, before every significant decision, ask yourself, and then what? And do that 3 times out loud. Not in your head, out loud. Make it awkward, make it unavoidable. Because the ones who rise aren't the fastest problem solvers. They're the ones who solve problems that stay solved. So start asking the questions 3 times every decision. The question isn't whether we have to think this way. It's whether we can afford to keep making decisions that just create bigger and bigger problems than they solve. So this is part of the Thinking 101 series, which teaches you how to think clearly in a world designed to confuse everyone. So here's our journey so far. In episode 1, we exposed the thinking crises. In episode 2, we learned to distinguish between deductive certainty from inductive probability. In episode 3, we discovered how to distinguish true causation from mere correlation. Episode 4, we learned how to harness the power of analogies while avoiding their traps. Episode 5, we master probabilistic thinking, how to make decisions with incomplete information, in uncertainty. Today, this is episode 6, we learned how to stop our decisions from creating bigger problems and asking, and then what, until we see the patterns others miss. Next up is episode 7, which is about proportional and numerical thinking. It's really about understanding scale and magnitude. We'll learn how to think in terms of scale, ratios, and relative magnitude, understanding when numbers matter and when they don't, spotting those statistical tricks used to mislead, and developing intuition about large numbers that most people lack. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. And hit that like button and that notification bell because it helps us with the algorithms so others find our content. And why not share this video with a colleague who you think would benefit from understanding this concept? Because right now, while you've been watching this, someone just made a decision that solves today's problems perfectly and just created 3 bigger problems for next quarter. The only question is, will you be the one who sees them coming? We'll see you next episode. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.